Well, hello people of the internet. This is Don from Explosions Incorporated back with another episode of Constant Science. You may notice a different view of the room behind me. You can actually see the tank where my gecko lives right there. You couldn't see that before. That's because I got a new camera. My wife and I went scuba diving. We were on vacation for a couple of weeks. That's why Aaron was actually writing my typical Monday posts that explains where Ron Diefler came from. Actually, I'm not sure anything really explains where Ron Diefler came from. And we bought a GoPro, so I've actually mounted it against a different wall. I don't have to kind of get down low and then prop the crappy webcam up with a tissue box like I used to. You probably didn't know that. And it's more convenient for a number of reasons, and it's also a lot more powerful and versatile. So I'm going to see how this works doing my footage with the GoPro from now on. So anyway, we got some great underwater footage, and I wanted to show off some of the sea life that we saw while we were down there. And that's scientific enough on its own, you know, marine biology and all that, but I want to open up with even more science. I know too much science. There's too much science here. I wanted to open up with a little bit of dive science, the science of scuba diving itself. See, it all has to do with pressure. And people are scared of scuba diving, but sharks aren't very dangerous, honestly, and jellyfish aren't that dangerous either, and neither are barracudas. The things people are normally scared of aren't all that dangerous, but there are dangers to scuba diving, and it has everything to do with how much pressure you're under when you are down 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 or 70 feet. We were almost at 80 feet over a couple of these dives. You're under a buttload of pressure. That's a technical term, by the way. Buttload is. When you're on the surface, you're under 1 atmosphere of pressure by definition at sea level. 1 atmosphere, 14.7 pounds per square inch of air pressing around you all the time. Your body is used to that, but it can tolerate more. The rule of thumb is, as you dive, every 10 meters or so, roughly every 30, 33 feet, you add another atmosphere. So once you're down about 30 or 33 feet, you are now under 2 atmospheres of pressure. Your body itself, the physical tissues are okay with this, but it means that all of the gases that are inside your lungs and your other tissues and your blood and whatnot are being compressed. They're taking up less space. That wouldn't be a problem if they didn't, take up more space again when you get back to the surface. See, the one cardinal rule of scuba diving safety, and there are a lot of safety rules, but this is the big one, is you don't hold your breath when you are ascending. Because say you're at 30 feet, you are under 2 atmospheres of pressure, and so now the gas from your tank, that nitrogen-oxygen mixture that mimics the air around us normally, is taking up less space, which means you have to breathe more of it to fill your lungs. So take a deep breath, hold it, and then have the amount of pressure you're under. That stuff is going to expand because it's not feeling that inward pressure anymore. It's going to pop your lungs like a couple of balloons. It's a bad thing, really, when you think about it. Now, the other worry is decompression sickness, and this also has to do with pressure and gas. Specifically, it has to do with nitrogen. There's already nitrogen dissolved in your blood and all your tissues because 70% of the air we breathe around us every day is nitrogen. And your body is used to it. There's a certain amount that's always there. Well, when you start diving underwater, that nitrogen, like all the other gases in your tissues and blood, get compressed. It gets compressed into smaller bubbles. And so the nitrogen that you're breathing from your scuba tank begins to fill in that empty space. Your body thinks it's filling up on the right amount of nitrogen because it doesn't know that all of the nitrogen you're breathing and all the nitrogen that's already there is taking up tiny little amounts of space compared to what it normally does. So you're packing in extra nitrogen because of the extra pressure. Now, once you surface, the nitrogen starts to bleed out of your body. Your body's like, oh crap, there's way too much of it. It starts to get rid of it as fast as it can. If you have too much, either because you were down at a very low depth for a little bit too long, or you were at a shallow depth for a lot too long, you could get too much nitrogen in multiple ways, really. Your body is getting rid of it very quickly, and those bubbles could actually clog up blood vessels and destroy and damage tissue. It's called decompression sickness, or the bends, and you never want to get it. It's very, very bad. So that's one of the real actual visible dangers of scuba diving, one of the things that divers have to know about and take into account when they're diving. So anyway, without further ado, here are some of the videos we took. We went diving at St. Thomas, and then 2 separate dives at the Wall on the island of Grand Turk. The Wall is this thing, so you go out on a boat a couple of miles offshore, and underneath you is the bottom, and it's only about 30 feet down, and then you go a little bit further, and boom, it drops something like 4,000 feet, and there's coral all up and down this wall. It's super duper cool. I'm going to try to label as many of the life forms as possible. We don't know all of them, but my wife did some dive research for a couple of years in the Caribbean, so she knew a lot. She helped out with this. And I'm also going to try in the bottom right corner to label roughly the depth we were at when we took that video. I can't remember all of them, but I will do my best. All right, I'll see you on the other side. Hey, I forgot something when I filmed the initial video, so I just wanted to drop it in here real quick. The music that you're hearing is all composed by our very own Aaron. And at the very end, there's a surface shot, a couple of the other divers who went with us, and off in the background, you can actually see a water spout in a massive storm, and there were a couple of parasailers headed right towards that water spout, and they got out of the way really quick. It was really neat, and after that, 2 more formed on either side of it. I just wish I had video of those, but I don't. So anyway, sorry for this intrusion. Okay, on to the video. All right, hold on, cut, wait, stop. Okay, we gotta talk a little bit more science. More science, I know, it's crazy. It's almost like I like science or something. Because you might notice that the color shifted just a little bit towards the extreme greeny blue end of the spectrum. That has to do also with science, but not pressure this time, more optics and the way the light works. So water absorbs light, really anything absorbs light. And the low wavelengths of light, like the purples and the blues over here, they penetrate deeper. It's because they're smaller. When you get a larger wavelength, like a red, it's taking up more space on its way down to the ocean floor, and so it's more likely it's going to bang into a water molecule and that energy is going to get absorbed. That means that you lose your reds about 20 feet down. It's a gradual transition, but you get down to about 20 feet, you really don't have very much red left at all. Then you lose your oranges, then you lose your yellows, and your purples and your blues and your greens. They last for a very long time. You can get blue down to like 200 meters or something crazy like that. That's why everything, once you get past a certain depth, that red loss threshold, I guess you could call it, looks very greenish. And so what I'm actually going to do is color correct it, because we have these neat digital tools we can use these days to kind of white balance and try to put a little bit more of that red back in, get rid of the murky greenish bluish. You can actually buy a red dye filter to put on your camera that tries to soak up as much of the red on its way in as possible. It helps it look a little more naturalistic, but we didn't actually find a dye filter for the GoPro until after we had finished diving. Any further dive videos I do will in fact have a red filter and look a little bit less digitized. But you know what? I think it turned out pretty well for my first time ever color correcting anything. So all right, back to the video. that's it. We saw some pretty neat stuff down there. And I hope you didn't mind a sort of extra long episode of Constant Science. I wanted to get some good dive footage in there and a whole lot of science. I think I did a decent job. So it's a little longer than normal, but don't worry. I'll be back next week with a short episode of Constant Science Minute Chemistry. Aaron said I should do another one of those, and I agree. That was a lot of fun. So anyway, I'll see you back here next week. Thanks for watching. As always, I'm Don from Explosions Incorporated.